Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm playing one-dimensional chess, where the board is only one rank. Kings and rooks move normally, and knights jump over one square. Let's get started with game number one. Alright, game number one. Now the website that we are playing this on does heavily insinuate that there is a forced win for white. The black pieces will always play the optimal response, and basically our goal here is to figure out how do we force a victory with white. Again, it's very heavily insinuated, and there is like a blacked out box with the solution that we can check at the end. But there should be a forced way to win this game for white. Now, I'd imagine the most natural way to start this, right, is just to take the rook. But that does end the game by stalemate, as we end up pinning the knight and the king has nowhere to move, so stalemate. We'll go ahead and restart the game. So obviously that's not the first move. I can't possibly imagine the first move is for us to give up our rook. Surely the engine would just take. Oh, it doesn't. Interesting. Does that mean I can just make waiting moves? I was going to say that if the engine can force a draw, if it's an automatic win for white, then why wouldn't it? But it didn't take our rook. It just moved the knight out. So I'm going to make another waiting move. Oh my goodness, I totally forgot. I don't know what I thought the knight could do, but I totally forgot that it could just take my rook, and it does actually checkmate us. Oh, so that's why it moved the knight out, because if I take with the rook, their rook recaptures, pins the knight, and that's a draw. But alternatively, I play something egregiously dumb, and the knight takes and puts me in checkmate. Okay, so far we've drawn the game and lost, and somehow we have to win. So obviously moving the rook isn't going to help. If I move it any further, the knight would just take. Well, we can't move the king, so you'd imagine moving out the knight and blocking the interaction between the two rooks is basically the only thing I can do. Alright, it meets fire with fire, centralizes its knight as well. And again, we have three legal moves. The cool thing is, this is sort of like playing an endgame with very few pieces in regular chess. You should be able to brute force calculate everything. I say should because clearly I'm incapable of doing so if I've just given up my rook for a knight, and not only that, but it was checkmate. But in theory, I'd imagine you can just brute force calculate this victory. So there are only three moves. Move number one, king up. Move number two, rook over. And move number three, you take the enemy rook with your knight, putting it in check, putting the enemy king in check, that is. I'm not even going to bother to calculate rook over or king over. Why would I not take a rook and give check? King does shuffle over, and now I kind of just want to take their knight with my rook. Their king has to move back over, I move the knight back, and that should just be checkmate. Wait, what? Oh my goodness! Why am I still behaving as if knights move normally? The knight covers this square. Okay, I'm still going to say that I think I can brute force calculate this, despite the evidence being overwhelmingly against that hypothesis. Okay, knight out has to be right. Knight to check has to be right. But what on earth do we follow up with? Because I'm kind of stuck on the idea that the checkmate has to be with the rook, but it feels like no matter what I do with the rook, I end up stalemating the king. I don't want to move my knight back, because then the enemy knight would take with check. I move my king out of the way, and then what? It's knight versus knight? I mean, what's the best case scenario there? Draw by insufficient material? We'll play it out so you guys can see what I'm talking about. If I move the knight back, the knight will take with check. I move the king over. Right, it doesn't even bother defending its knight. If I take, I can claim a draw by insufficient material in this button below, because there is no way to checkmate this. Kings can't put each other in check, so the knight has to deliver the mate, which means the knight would have to be on this square, the enemy king would have to be on this square, and then there's no way for this king to defend the adjacent dark square. So we'll go ahead and claim the draw by insufficient material. So that's not the way to go about this. I still do think it's correct to take the rook. Material is material is material. But what to do next? Obviously, knight back we've ruled out because we just give the rook back up. We've ruled out taking the knight because that's just stalemate. So you'd imagine I just move the rook out of the way. We allow this capture, but our rook isn't in danger anymore. And the knight is pinned. So I can just make a waiting move with, I think, either my king or my rook. The knight can't move, the king would have to step back, and then I can take the knight with my rook, and that should just be checkmate. Okay, sweet. With that, we do figure out how to defeat the engine in 1D chess. Just out of curiosity, let's see what the official website answer was. Also, I love the fact that the notation for the website, I'll flash it up on screen now, literally just labels each square with a single number. Because obviously there's no grid system here, so you don't need files and ranks. So they've just gone and labeled each square 1, 2, 3, 4 through 8. So the line they offer is knight 4. Met with knight 5, which is what we got. Taking with knight 6, giving check. King 7, obviously the only move. Rook 4, which is just exactly what we played. And then instead of King 2 and then King 7, it offers Rook 2, King 7, but that's literally just a transposition of exactly what we have. Well, not an exact transposition, but basically the same idea, just implemented slightly differently. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know down below if I should make a modified board with 2 files and rather 2 ranks, 3 ranks, 4 ranks, and so on and so forth to play against Stockfish with. Because I feel like instead of 1D chess, I suppose I could call that 2 or 3D chess, but that's not really accurate, is it? But I'd be willing to bet that with 2 ranks on the board, maybe even 3, depending on what setup I exactly choose, it should still be possible to get a forced mate relatively quickly. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.